Miller. Henry Miller. Uh, Henry Miller, Henry, Henry, Miller, Miller, Henry Miller. Uh, and the work on which we will concentrate our discussion is his notable novel, Black Spring, B-L-A-C-K, Black, S-P-R-I-N-G, Black Spring, published in the year 1936. So, we are going to have our discussion on Henry Miller, particularly with reference to his notable novel, Black Spring. Black Spring was published in the year 1936. Okay. Um, so we have in our preceding classes we have uh, already had discussion on a number of American novelists, and the novelist on which we are going to focus our discussion each of a different type of novelist. Henry Miller, um, uh, who uh, actually is very prolific in his stature. Miller was a prolific writer. Miller was a notable writer, notable novelist. Ah, and he wrote autobiographical novels, he wrote essays, he wrote treatises, he wrote letters, he wrote many travelogues also. So, as I already told you, Miller is considered as a prolific writer of his time. He wrote autobiographical sketches, novels, essays, treatises, letters, and many travelogues also. So, Miller writes in two main genres. He writes in two main genres. His work is almost divided between, he writes in two genres, GENRES, genres. His work is almost divided between narrative and expository modes. Narrative and expository modes. Important to note, his work is almost divided between narrative and expository modes. However, his Henry Miller is known for his narrative works. He is known for his narrative writings. He is known for his narrative style. He is known for his narrative modes of writing, mm, uh, such as a Tropic of Cancer. Uh, Tropic of Cancer is also a notable novel of Henry Miller. Uh, Tropic of Cancer, Black Spring, Tropic of Capricorn, and many other novels uh, actually belong to the narrative novels of um, Henry Miller, belong to narrative novels of Henry Miller. Okay. And uh, I mean, many actually critics have usually treated these books. Which books? As I told, I actually now mentioned three important works of Henry Miller, namely Tropic of Cancer, TROPIC, Tropic of Cancer. Secondly, Black Spring. And the third one is Tropic of Capricorn. Ah, and these three narratives, critics have usually treated these books as novels because uh, Miller's method is that of fiction. So far the style, so far the technique, so far the actually method Henry Miller uh, adopts uh, particularly with reference to these three works, Tropic of Cancer, Black Spring, and Tropic of Capricorn. Because Miller's method is that of fiction. So, the uh, richest period of Henry Miller writing, the richest period of Henry Miller's writing career is also the most actually varied, is also the most varied. Uh, it, 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 it is varied in a volcanic creative, in a volcanic creative outburst, uh, in a volcanic creative outburst, in a sudden creative actually outburst. Henry Miller produced stories, Henry Miller produced articles, Henry Miller produced books at the rate of a volume, at the rate of a volume, number of stories, number of articles, number of books. Therefore, critics say that Henry Miller produced uh, so many actually, so many stories, so many articles, so many essays, so many books at the rate of a volume, at the rate of in large scale, in large number. So that is why the many critics said that in a volcanic creative outburst, he produced stories, articles, books in volumes. During uh, uh, this decade, he wrote three narratives, three narratives, generally regarded as his best three narratives, generally regarded as his best and most characteristic works, namely Tropic of Cancer, Black Spring, and Tropic of Capricorn. These are the three works, and these three works are generally regarded as his best and most characteristic works. Ah, what are those three works? Tropic of Cancer, Black Spring, and Tropic of Capricorn. So, uh, Tropic of Cancer uh, was published in the year 1934, 2 years before the publication of Henry Miller's Black Spring. The Black Spring, Henry Miller's Black Spring was published in the year 1936, as I told you. But Tropic of Cancer is published in the year 1934. Uh, Tropic of Cancer is an account of the adventures and encounters of uh, an American in Paris. The Tropic of Cancer is an account of uh, an account of the adventures and encounters of an American in Paris. It is written in the first person. It is written in the present tense, and this novel narrative, Tropic of Cancer, it conveys a strong sense of speaking voice. It actually, novel conveys a strong sense of speaking voice. So, Tropic of Cancer, published in the year 1900, 34, 2 years before. His other work, Black Spring, was published. So far the structure of Tropic of Cancer is concerned, the structure is uh, roughly uh, chronological. The structure of his book, Tropic of Cancer, is roughly chronological with very distinct episodes, with very distinct chapters, with very distinct, issues, episodes succeeding each other. The many distinct episodes, so many distinct episodes succeeding each other, following the calendar from autumn to summer. following the calendar from autumn to summer. So he confines to a particular period. He confines to a particular, particular time, and therefore structure is roughly chronological with distinct episodes succeeding each other following the calendar from autumn to summer. So the other narrative, Tropic of Capricorn, is the third of Miller personal narrative, which was published in the year 1939. Uh, it is more strictly autobiographical. The other narrative, another important narrative of, I mean, Henry Miller, is Tropic of Capricorn. Mark the title, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. So he also chooses subject matter. Who he also chooses characters representing the symbolism, and therefore he rightly gives the title Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And the other narrative, Tropic of Capricorn, as I told you, is the third of Miller's personal narrative, and it is more strictly autobiographical. Uh, in trying to explain how and why he became a writer, in trying to explain how and why he became a writer, he reviews more than 35 years of his past experiences. Who? Henry Miller. In trying to explain how, in trying to explain why he became a writer, he reviews more than 30 by years of his past experiences. He succeeds mainly in conveying his sense of, I mean, a sense of uh, mm, uh, alienation, sense of alienation. Important thing to note on our part is that he succeeds mainly in conveying his sense of alienation from American life. Capricorn is the sign of zodiac. Capricorn, we all know that Capricorn, the sign of the zodiac, symbolizes his destiny. Capricorn, the sign of zodiac, symbolizes Miller's destiny. It symbolizes Miller's compliments. Uh, the rich symbolism of Cancer, the rich symbolism of Cancer. For as Miller says, cancer is not only a symbol of disease. As Miller says, cancer is not only a symbol of disease and corruption. It is not only a symbol of disease and corruption. It is also zodiacal sign of the poet. It also relates to the fate of the poet, destiny of the poet. Hmm. Destiny of the poet, fate of the poet. So, Miller actually justifies in this novel that the novel, in his novel Tropic of Capricorn. So, as Miller says, cancer is not only a symbol of disease, it is not only a symbol of corruption, it is also zodiacal sign of the poet relating to the destiny of the novelist, destiny of the writer. And in this novel, the character no, he presents is that of the solitary, self-reliant, rogue, at odds with society, but improving his life from day to day life. So, in this novel, who Henry Miller uh, presents characters that of the solitary, self-reliant, rock at odds with society, but improving his life from day to day. So, we are not supposed to go into detail. Therefore, I am trying to give you certain idea, some idea, a little idea about the characters, about the structure of these novels, while we are going to discuss, particularly with reference to the work of Henry Miller, Black Spring, it is pertinent on our part to have discussions on other novels too, as they are similar in their theme, similar in characterization, similar in its style and technique. So, in this novel, the character he presents is that of solitary. So, characters are solitary in nature, they are also self reliant, and surprisingly, rock at odds with society. So they stand opposed to the convention of the society. They stand opposed to the, the principles of society. But later part, he also presents them that they are improving in their lifestyle from day to day. Uh, this narrative uh, actually alternates between good luck and bad. So, obviously, it is a self-explanatory that this narrative also alternates between good and evil, good and good luck and evil. Period. So, there is according to Henry, Miller, it works as a it is a cyclic change of destiny, cyclic change of destiny. So, good luck. One cannot expect good luck for all his lifetime. One also cannot expect bad luck in all his lifetime. So, therefore, through his character, he presents alternate option between good luck and bad luck. Uh, Henry Black's another work. The Black Spring, Black Spring, which was published in the 1936, um, eh, uh, 2 years after the publication of Tropic of Cancer. It deals with many of the same themes as we find in case of as we find in case of as we find in case of Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. The theme of the book is universal death and dark regeneration. Mark these two actually phrases. The theme of this book, of the novel Black Spring, hmm, is the theme of the book is universal death and dark regeneration. Humanity caught in the in the session of Black Spring. Miller cries. He points out the characteristic malady of the age. Miller points out the characteristic malady of the age. Miller says that the whole world is diseased. The whole world is diseased. He cries, he points out the characteristic malady of the age. He also says that the whole world is diseased, and yet a, a brand new world is coming out. There is a hope for the next generation. There is a hope for the next society. The whole world is diseased, the whole society is diseased, and the age is full of malady. And yet, he is hopeful, yes, he is optimistic because he believes that a brand new world is coming out, and is fast, is his firm conviction. He never leaves, he never leaves hopes, he never leaves faith, and he very emphatically says in this novel, in the novel Black Spring, I am thinking of that age. I am thinking of that age to come when God is born again. This is a line from the novel which I quote. uh, I am thinking of that age to come when God is born again. So, this line gives sufficient hints that Henry Miller is optimistic, Henry Miller is hopeful, Henry Miller is he never actually abandons hopes. I mean, um, uh, uh, he never leaves hopes, he never leaves faith. Mm. And that is why he says that a brand new world is coming out. A brand new world is coming out. Uh, he knows that the age is full of malady. The entire world is uh, diseased. And yet, he also harbors hope in his mind that a brand new world is coming out. Uh, it is his firm conviction that good days will come, good time will come, a better opportunity will come for the people, a better chance will come for the people to build new world, to build new generation, to build a meaningful society. That is why he says, I am thinking of that age. I am thinking of that age to come. I am thinking of that age to come when God is born again. Ah, he, and therefore, I mean, Henry Miller is very much optimistic in his outlook, optimistic in his thought, and stylistically, participants, stylistically, Henry Blake work, The Springs, is a dazzling book. Stylistically, this novel, I mean, Black Spring, is a dazzling book. Miller is a poet of reckless abandon. His language is exuberant and prodigal. He's fond of using jargons. He's fond of using parody, and the method of Black Spring is very clear. The method he adopts in the novel, the Black Spring, is very clear. Uh, he uses burlesque and poetic description. Ah, actually, uh, he uses caricature. He also, through his character, we find revelation of facts, all pointing to the same thing, reflecting urgent sensibility. Burlesque, poetic description, caricature, revelation of characters, all actually point to the same themes, and these actually reflect the mood of the essayist. This actually reflect the urgent sensibility which the poet, which the novelist wants to expose through the characters of his novel. He wants to expose through the characters of his novel, Black Spring. Uh, Dear friends, the distinctive quality of Black Spring is not actually is not really created by new techniques. It is created rather by curious aura of vindictiveness. The distinctive quality of Black Spring is not really created by new techniques. It is created rather by curious aura of vindictiveness and nostalgia, an attitude towards time even more unresolved as cancers. And for though of its actually for though of its motives is that man must act as if the past were dead. Man must act as if the past were dead. Man actually man must act as if he exposes these actually themes in his characters. Therefore, the motive is that man must act as if the past were dead and the future is unreliable. Ah, But the future is also full of hopes, full of aspirations, full of opportunities, full of actually yeah, good time, and there is a pervasive sense. There is the novel gives a pervasive sense of uh, loss, but at the same time, it also gives sufficient um, hints of uh, actually better opportunity for men, for a new world, for a new society. And uh, uh, the form he uses is sometimes called the form uh, Henry Miller uses is sometimes called the autobiographical novel. But this is a misnomer. For many critics, for them, it is a misnomer. The word autobiographical obtains merely because the narrator sounds so very real. The could you follow? The form he uses is sometimes called the autobiographical novel. But this is a misnomer, as many critics view it, because the word autobiographical obtains merely because sounds so because the narrator sounds so very real, and it is now generally recognized. It is now generally recognized that all that is dramatically engaging, whether tragic or comic, must appear to stem from a bedrock of reality, from a bedrock of reality. In narrative, this means a slight facet delivery. So, this straight face can extend as if Dodge with Miller beyond the work itself, so that when questioned about it, he can say, "Oh yes, that is all real. That really happened. That is me. I am writing about," etc., etc. So naturally, Miller justifies that uh, this is the autobiographical. This is an autobiographical novel, but to many critics, it is a misnomer. So, what is more, Miller has developed
So
a
what
style.
is misnomer?
Hello,
So what is misnomer?
misnomer. Uh, eh,
Yes.
Meaning of the word misnomer, you are asking, na?
Yes,
Ah,
sir.
misnomer means they do not agree with the opinion of it is false misnomer. It is false. It is not true. Okay, it is not true. As
Okay, sir.
as Miller justifies that it is an autobiographical sketches. For many critics, it is misnomer. They do not agree with his opinion. They do not agree. It is they consider it as false. What is more, Miller has developed a style that is very well fitted for the continual act of celebration. He writes in hurrying, turbulent situation, in turbulent situation, and he also writes turbulent approach, turbulent writings that give the impression of complete spontaneity. Hmm. But only the most careful reader can imagine that such prose can be produced without a great deal of hard work. The rhythms never get out of hand. Ah, and the pauses, PAUSCS pauses, are varied with considerable skills. So this is the craftsmanship of Henry Miller, and he is apt at using this craftsmanship. Henry Miller is apt at using this craftsmanship, and he becomes also successful. Henry Miller is a really popular writer. He is a popular writer, a writer uh, of the people. He writer for the people and also by the people. Actually, this is a Kenneth Rexroth. in his comments, estimate Henry Miller as a popular writer, writer of, for, and by the real people. So, in other countries, he is read not just by Nibros, but by the wider public that reads novels. So, in other countries, his reputation as a writer is acknowledged widely, and uh, even uh, I mean, it is difficult to say. It is very difficult to say how far such an instinctive writer as Miller. It is very difficult to say how far such an instinctive writer as Miller has realized his own importance. It is very difficult to say how far such an instinctive writer as Miller has realized his own importance. Probably he arrived at it through a process of trial and error. Naturally, for a writer, actually success does not come at first hand. So he has to struggle, he has to examine, he has to re-examine, he has to take the opinion, he has to admit the comments of these critics to actually improve upon his writings. And therefore, probably he arrived at it through a process of trial and error, looking for a fixed point in a world of shadows. He found only himself. And as we have already discussed in our previous classes, all novelists, American novelists, they have become, established writer. They have become successful novelists, particularly during the time when America was passing through a very difficult time after the two world wars, as we have already discussed in our previous classes. And Miller is not an exception to it. There is, however, no doubt that his transition from the objectivity of the third person to the subjectivity of the first, from a narrative to an autobiographic style, actually from reticence on certain subjects to the most brutal frankness, was deliberate and conscious. It was deliberate and conscious, knowingly, deliberately, consciously. He was trying to expose the characters with these techniques, because as we said, there is, however, no doubt that his transition from this objectivity of the, so the objectiveness of the character, using the third person, objectivity of the third person, to the subjectivity of the first person. So, from a narrative to an autobiographic style, from a narrative to an autobiographic style. So, in autobiography, naturally, there will be the technique of using first person, and from reticence on certain subjects to the most brutal frankness was deliberate and conscious. So, with him, the American novel, which with many of imitators of Hemingway, Faulkner, Saroyan, had become merely a literary machine, reached a turning point. Like the spring, black spring, time rose up a turbid, riotous mountain stream, breaking up the winter's ice, and um, and actually uh, we see in Miller, we see in Miller the moment when the that precarious balance between American society and its opponents, which had never been completely achieved, broke down together, who had never been achieved or broke down together. Henry Miller can use the language. He writes strong, biting, memorable, vivid prose. Style, he uses a brushwork, the drive of the hand into the clay, the thrust up lines of structure against each other, the moment of the musical phrase between keys and modes. the balance and rivalry of colors, the rise and fall and timing up and conventional perspectives of, sexual politics, but in the complex and contradictory field of consciousness and constitutes flying. So, I mean, uh, I mean, Henry Miller, therefore, Henry Miller uh, uh, is considered a, a, mm, a writer, a successful writer, and his, uh, I mean, other as compared to many American writers like Huxley, T.S. Eliot, Harold Maine, Charles Glicksberg, William Barrett, and all keep positive remarks, positive comments on Henry Miller. Even in books like The Two Tropics, Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, where Miller was feeling sordidness upon sordidness to get the effect of reality. He was using sordidness upon the sordidness to get the effect of reality. The thing does not come off as real, especially if you compare him with writers in the same genre like Beckett or like Shelley. So the excitement mm, uh, of the books, these three books, as good, evidence, uh, actually provide sufficient evidence, and has also considerably owned up, partly have it perhaps because we have got used to those things from other sources, but chiefly because Miller's own interest, his own interest uh, with the, his own interest to the study the minute actually events, minute issues of American society. Hmm. Uh, uh, Actually, which were exposed in the characters of these three narratives. So,
Excuse me, sir.
therefore, hello,
Yeah, I want to ask one question.
hello,
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
again,
Yeah,
repeat it again.
yeah. You said a word reticence.
Hello, please repeat it again.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So she is asking the meaning for reticent.
Hmm. Huh. I could not get your point.
You said a word reticence, so I am asking that.
Huh. Hello.
Can someone convey this to sir? I don't know why my voice is not clear.
So she is asking the meaning for reticent.
Hello. Huh. What did you ask, sir?
Radhika, it's
She's
better
asking
you
for
just
reticence, sir.
It is not
type.
clear. Your voice is not clear.
Radhika, you just type the your question. That would be
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hello.
So she's just typing you her question.
Hmm.
Sir, she's typing you the question.
Try to.
So just
She has
short
typed
text.
on chat box, sir.
There is echo in your voice. There is echo in your voice. I am not able to hear you. Echo in your voice.
She has typed the question in chat box, sir.
It's, what is your question?
She has typed on the chat box, sir. Please see it.
What is your question, participant? What is your question?
Asking for a meaning. for the meaning for those words, the explanation.
Hmm. Uh,
Sir, never mind. You can carry ahead. I'll ask later.
That would be better, I think. He's not
Yes, sir.
getting there. Some
Continue. Continue. Continue.
which on what point do you want clarification?
I was asking burlesque. Can you hear now? Burlesque.
so she's
I don't know
asking
Burlesque,
why
that.
my
burlesque,
voice is not
burlesque.
going. Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
sir.
You are asking on burlesque.
Yes, yes, sir.
I will explain. I will give you notes on the grocery. Huh?
Okay,
Uh,
sir. Okay, okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
if you want, I can give you notes on grocery. There are some words which may not be clear to you because you are not aware of their meanings. Huh? Therefore, you might be facing difficulty in understanding the uh, actually meanings of the words. So, if you want, I can give you some notes on uh, grocery.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
what are the burlesque? You are not you want some, you want clarification on burlesque and any other words?
Reticent. You said one word, reticent.
Acha, okay. Oh, yeah. Let me end, then I will give you the meanings of those words. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Uh-huh. So it is difficult to say how far such an instinctive writer. It is very difficult to say how far such an instinctive writer as Miller has realized his own importance, and uh, as another major feminist writer, Susan Griffin, he branded Miller's writing otherwise. He branded Miller's writing otherwise. He branded Miller's writing as pornography and lumped it with works of more traditionally considered to be that of genre. So he, but she gives a different kind of opinion about Henry Miller. Likewise, Giffen's reliance on essentialist assumption about the nature of gender and gender relation. For instance, that fathers is a natural female sexuality that excludes both violence and abuse of power, but includes what Ellen Willis calls her goody goody except. So these are the many critics are of different opinion, and Susan Griffin actually remarks that the particularly Henry Miller uses uh, pornography in his in his narratives. Another novelist, Erika Jong, who calls herself one of the disciples of Henry Miller, he calls herself one of the disciple of Henry Miller, is eulogistic about her actually mm, mm, about Miller. In her book on Miller, entitled "The Devil at Large," she proclaims, "Why must we read? Because he invented a new style of writing." Who about Miller? He is actually giving her remarks on Miller because he invented a new style of writing, a style as revolutionary in his own way as Joyce and Hemingway's and Stein, a style that reveals, as he says, the inner pattern of events. Also, she calls him a sage. Erika Jong, another critic, she actually calls herself one of the disciples of Henry Miller. Erika, Erica, Erika Jong, Erika Jong, one of the important critics. Ah, she calls herself as one of the disciple of Henry Miller, and praises the work of Henry Miller, uh, um, and because of the fact that Miller actually invented a new style of writing, a style of revolutionary in his own way, as Joyce and Hemingway or Stein, the style that reveals, as he says, the inner pattern of events. Ah, Also, she calls him a sage, S-A-G is sage. Henry is above all a wisdom, actually, writer like Hess or Krishnamurti. According to Erika Jong, he compares Henry Miller with Hess and Krishnamurti, and he also calls Henry Miller a sage. And the narrative is far less important to him than the philosophical digressions. The narrative is, according to Erika Jong, the narrative is far less important to him than the philosophical digression. He uses his life as a parable. uh, this is not the usual novelist dance. He seeks to instinct for more than please. Therefore, many other critics also view actually give their view, give their opinions, give their remarks on Henry Miller, and uh, therefore, we have, as we discussed, some of the well-known critics like George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, Wallace, Foyle, Philip Rive, Frederick Hoffman, Carl Sapir, Norman Mailer, and those many others. Those of some of the less known critics are also on praise so far the works of Henry Miller are concerned. Also, it is very important to make an analysis of their comments. So, some caustics, some favorable of some of the famous feminists like Kate Millett, Susan Griffin, Erika Jong, and the comments of the critics can also be taken into account while discussing the work of Henry Miller. So, and as as we know, uh, here you can participants you can uh, get a question uh, that give your assessment. The question which you are supposed to get from this section is that give an assessment uh, on Henry Miller as a writer, particularly with reference to Black Spring. This may you may get a question on it. Give your assessment. Give your assessment of Henry Miller as a writer with reference to his narratives, with reference to his novel Black Spring. Okay. So, do you want some notes on grocery? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, grocery for you want notes on burlesque, na? Burlesque and
Reticent, sir.
hmm.
Reticent.
Okay, okay. Wait a little, na? Just Burlesque can write an absurd or comically exaggerated imitation. An absurd or comically exaggerated imitation of something. An absurd and comically exaggerated imitation of something, especially in a literary or dramatic work. In a literary or dramatic work. Are you noting down?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
An
sir.
absurd or comically exaggerated imitation of something, especially in literary or dramatic work, is known as burlesque. 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 Which is otherwise known as parody, as he has used the technique of parody. Parody is same meaning, parody. Okay. And parody means to imitate an absurd or comically exaggerated way. Parody means imitation of something. Uh, imitate in an absurd and comically exaggerated way.
So what's the difference between comedy and parody
Parody,
and comedy?
parody and comedy.
Yes, sir.
The comparison between parody and comedy.
Yes, sir.
Parody. What do you mean by parody? What? Any idea on it? Parody. I told you what does parody mean? Parody is an imitation. Imitation. Parody is an imitation. Imitation or comical imitations are imitations of something which is comical in nature. Imitation of something which is comical in nature. But comedy is a imitation of something which is not comical in nature, which evokes laughter. Which evokes laughter. Okay. Which evokes
Okay.
laughter. Comedy evokes laughter, but parody is something. If you imitate something which is comical in nature, which is comical in nature, or which is comical in its nature, but comedy is something, an event or incident that evokes laughter. Which book are you using for the terms of literature? There is a book for you where you can guide the meanings of all glossaries, glossary of literary terms. Do you have that book with you?
No, sir. No, sir. Please suggest.
A glossary of literary terms. Glossary of literary terms. It is very essential on your part, on the part of a literature students, to have that book. The cost is very minimum. A glossary of literary terms. Please get this book where you can get a number of actually literary terms with their meanings, and you are supposed to know it.
Any particular author, sir?
Glossary of literary terms, Abraham, probably.
Yes, sir.
Abraham.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have MEG 10? Do
No,
you have?
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How many of you have MEG 10? Today we were discussing MEG 11. No, no. Do you have
10
MEG
people.
10? 10. Do you have MEG 10?
Yes, sir.
sir.
10 people around here.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow we have a class on MEG 10. So as I was telling you yesterday, those who have MEG 10 So I will club two blocks 6 or 7, because it contains a little actually subject matter. So both the blocks can be discussed on a single session. If you don't have, it doesn't matter. But
Excuse me, sir. So what is the timing?
mhm.
So what is the class timing tomorrow?
Tomorrow class time the same time from 10 to 11.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, in the next session, you will be taking the plot of Black Spring or something else. Hello, sir, are you there? Hello, sir.
She might have left.
Okay, thank you.
टॉन्सिल लगी कड़ा बेटा खाई देगा टॉन्सिल लगी बेटा मेडिसिन